All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the November edition of Bringing Mind to Market. This is a monthly education workforce development webinar series from LIFT, Lightweight Innovations for Tomorrow. And having just celebrated Veterans Day yesterday, we are very proud to talk about one of our initiatives here, Operation Next, where we're looking at preparing those who have served our country for their next mission in advanced manufacturing. So thank you very much for joining us today. This is Joe Steele, Communications Director at LIFT. And I do have a couple of housekeeping items to go through before we get started. First, if you could put your phones on mute, that would be fantastic. Less background noise we have, the better for the presenters and the presentation. Second of all, each of our webinars are recorded and posted on the LIFT website at lift.technology under the Education Workforce tab. So please take a look at the presentations we've given in the past, and you may share this one or share the other ones with your friends and family who were unable to make it today. So we look forward to you doing that. And thirdly, if you have a question, please use the GoToMeeting chat function that's in the toolbar there. It's on the right-hand side of my screen. You can address the question to the organizer, and I can facilitate Q&A afterwards, after we're done with the presentation. Or you can, there's been conversations going on during some of these webinars in the chat function as the presentations are going on, so you can certainly participate in that. So thank you very much for joining us today. A little bit about LIFT. We are part of the Manufacturing USA Network. The Manufacturing USA Network is a network of 14 national innovation institutes. We are based in Detroit, and our mission is revolutionizing manufacturing through lightweighting, innovation, and education. We believe that if it moves by land, in the air, on the sea, or in space, it can be lightweighted to move farther, faster, more efficiently, and that directly benefits the U.S. commercial and defense markets. So we're based here in Detroit. We have a 100,000 square foot facility. 85,000 square feet of that is high bay space. That is where the R&D happens. We have full scale manufacturing equipment back there, and we do share with one of the other Manufacturing USA institutes. While our focus is on lightweight metals, we do share space back there with IACME, the Composites Institute. So we have both metals and composites in the same facility. So if you're in the Detroit area, please come visit us on Rosa Parks Boulevard. If you'd like to take a virtual tour of our high bay, it's certainly available on our website as well, under the LIFT facilities section. You can walk through the high bay there, thanks to our friends at Kamau for putting that together for us. So while you're here, you'll see that we are a group of about 15 or 20 people here, but really there are over 200 members and partners across industry, education, and research around the country. At any given time, we have more than 600 engineers, researchers, or professors, or industry experts and economic developers working on LIFT initiatives around the country. And I mentioned we are home to 100,000 square foot facility. So we are very proud to have Operation Next as one of our education workforce initiatives. Education workforce development is one of the pillars that we work on. The other is technology R&D in the lightweight metal space. You can learn more about the projects that we have going on our website as well. You can also follow us on Twitter and other social channels at News from LIFT, and we look forward to hearing more from you and having you come visit us here in Detroit. To talk a little bit more about our education workforce development efforts, I'm going to hand it over to Emily DeRocco, our Vice President of Education Workforce Development, and she can talk you through some of the work that we have had going on here over the last several years, as well as Operation Next. Emily?
Thank you, Joe. Yes, for the 4+ years of operations, LIFT has had a really robust education and workforce development program portfolio focused on two parallel missions. The first, of course, is addressing the advanced manufacturing skills gap, which is a principal pain point for manufacturers across the country. And the second is aligning new technology with talent development so that we don't increase the skills gap in the years ahead, but instead produce an educated and skilled advanced manufacturing workforce for manufacturers across America. That portfolio to date has more than 40 partnership investments in replicable, scalable, and sustainable programs and educational pathways to good jobs and careers in manufacturing. We have engaged over 150 education and workforce development partners that are now in fact, producing the educated and skilled workforce for the manufacturers within their footprints. And our impact to date is over 200,000 students and teachers who are now familiar with the great careers in manufacturing, and most importantly, pursuing the STEM education and the workforce development, skills development in the skilled crafts and trades that will be critical for our nation's manufacturing future. Let's go to the next slide. As we move through the end of 2018 into 2019, we have really refocused efforts at our headquarters in Detroit, and we are today finishing construction on a unique world-class learning lab where we will be a centerpiece in the country for the talent pipeline development for advanced manufacturing. And this will include, for example, credentialed precision machinists, welding technicians, engineering technicians, robotics experts, and other educated and skilled workers in high demand in every labor market across our country. In this lab, the eye candy chart you're looking at depicts the various components of an incredibly well-equipped and staffed learning lab as we move into 2019. But we also are committed to giving priority to veterans and to our National Guard and Reserve, former military personnel who will be critical players in our nation's advanced manufacturing workforce and in fact in our defense industrial base in the future. And today we're pleased to present to you a program where we are not waiting for individuals to separate from the services, but in fact are piloting a program with active duty military at Fort Campbell. And to tell you a little bit about that pilot program, I want to turn this over to Eileen Pickett, our project manager in Kentucky and Tennessee. Eileen?
Great. Thank you, Emily. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and happy day after Veterans Day. As Joe said, this is a very appropriate topic for today. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the model that is Operation Next and how we got to it. And sort of how the partnership was formed. And then in a little while, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Horton, who is a veteran himself and is our program manager for Operation Next on the ground at Fort Campbell. So as Emily began to shape the challenge, the workforce challenge for the country, we recognize this skills gap as she talked about, and particularly in manufacturing. Even today, there are hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs open and going unfilled. That only continues to grow, and that problem only gets worse as people retire. There are significant numbers of projected retirements, and as technology advances, as the jobs change, and as people need to change with it. And we hear as we talk to employers that technical skills are critical, obviously, but they also talk often about soft skills, if you will. And they're not, that's sort of the common term, but maybe not the best term, because these are really, we like to call them foundational employability skills, skills that everyone needs to be able to be successful in the workforce, in the workplace, regardless really of what kind of job you might hold. So thinking about that combination of technical skills and those foundational employability skills, thinking about where is a large population of individuals who have those foundational skills, and you almost immediately, if you think about it, turn to the military. The folks who are serving our country come out of from their service with real skills in working on teams, leadership, commitment to the cause, whatever that cause might be, whether it's service to the country or service to a company, initiative, all of these things that we hear employers are looking for. So what a potentially powerful combination of those foundational skills layered with the technical skills. And the other aspect of this is that it's just a fact that and certainly for post 9/11 veterans, while the unemployment rate is low across the board, it's higher for veterans than it is for the civilian workforce. So there's an opportunity there to help to mitigate that skills gap and also help folks who are transitioning to move into great and rewarding careers. So the vision was to provide transitioning military personnel who have those foundational employability skills with the technical skills to prepare them for the most in-demand jobs in manufacturing. And we're starting with two of those high in-demand jobs, CNC operator and industrial maintenance technician. They are significantly needed across the country, many, many open jobs. This is our, I just turned the screen to one of our advertisements that I think gets to the potential of these folks for our employer base, tested on the front line, but ready for the production line. So working with partners, and we worked with several national partners and then with some local partners, but initially with national partners to create a model that we think is particularly suited to the transitioning military population. The two initial partners were Amatrol, which is our learning platform, our company located in Jeffersonville, Indiana. They are providing the curriculum and the learning platform for Operation Next. And NIMS, which is the National Institute of Metalworking Skills, and we are focused on moving our Operation Next students through the process to ultimately a NIMS credential, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So I'm going to move through the model and kind of point out why we think it is unique. So early intervention virtual learning model. So in that title, there are a couple of key things. Early intervention in that Operation Next is happening for the students within their 6-month transition window from, in our pilot case, the Army. Of course, this could be done in any of the military services, but as Emily mentioned, we're starting with Fort Campbell, which is an Army base. So the individual who is enrolled in Operation Next is still active duty military. It's not post-transition, it's during transition. The other thing that's unique here is that it's a virtual learning model. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's not, this is a competency-based program. It's not sitting in a classroom for a particular amount of time to gain a credential. There is flexibility built into it, and that's intended because of the fact that these folks still are on active duty military and still have other responsibilities. So I'm going to kind of walk through step by step what the model looks like. First, of course, connect to separating military, and we are based at Fort Campbell in this particular pilot, our first pilot. And Fort Campbell is a large Army base located on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. About 400 individuals transition from Fort Campbell a month. That varies, but that's approximately the number. So that's sort of step one, obviously, is to establish those relationships. Then introduction to advanced manufacturing careers. And the folks who are in the military are just like folks who are outside of the military in their knowledge of what manufacturing careers might and might not look like. So there's some education that's needed in some cases to help folks understand what these new advanced manufacturing jobs look like and what a career path might be. And really in these first two, Eric will talk a little bit about how he makes that connection with the soldiers as they're considering what training or what careers they might look to as they make their exit. So then there's a self-assessment, and I think of this in really two ways. There's sort of the personal introspective self-assessment. What do I like to do? What do I want to do with my life as I move from a military to civilian career? But then there's a very practical assessment that's built into the system, into the learning management system. And I've heard from a couple of soldiers at least, more than a couple actually, as I've made visits down to Fort Campbell, that this is something that they really value, in that the system allows them to essentially get credit for what they already know or can do. So if they understand how to read an ohm meter or some other kind of tactical tasks like that, they don't have to sit in a classroom and learn that all over again. They can move on and move on to the next level of learning. That's very important, I think, to these folks. That's what the feedback that we've gotten, and we think that's really an important aspect to the program. The next step is the selection of the major, which I mentioned. There are two tracks. The individual can take the track that will lead to a CNC operator credential or a credential in industrial technology maintenance. And we're actually considering now, we're looking into the possibility, although it's early stages, of offering a third opportunity in the area of welding, which is another really highly in-demand career. So the individual decides which route they're going to take, and then they begin the learning. And this is it's a hybrid program, so it combines online learning with hands-on learning and assessment. So the first part of it is theory-based, and it's not quite, as I say, first part, it's not quite as linear, I think, as I'm describing it, because it really is flexible. So again, the individual gets credit for what they already know or can do, but the initial steps are learning the theory and understanding concepts, and that's what this self-paced. So they can do this. Many of them do it in cohorts, and Eric will talk, they sort of connect with each other and work together often, but they can do it, which was purposeful. They could do it at home in the evening, or if they have time off during the day, or that kind of thing. So there's a significant amount of flexibility built in. Then the next step is the hands-on application and skills assessment. And this is essentially lab work. It's working on the equipment. It's learning how to do the work that they'll do in a manufacturing facility. It's real-world equipment. This is generally, in our case at Fort Campbell, although it could be done in different ways. In our case at Fort Campbell, it's done in partnership with the community college, one each in Kentucky and Tennessee. So they have the equipment, the instructors are there, the students are using the equipment and doing the work, and ultimately taking assessments to earn their credential. Sorry, I've gone in reverse. There we go. So to ultimately earn their industry credential, which I mentioned is a National Institute of Metalworking Skills, NIMS credential. And importantly, we think NIMS is the right credential to offer for several reasons. The NIMS credential is nationally portable, so it's like getting a college or community college degree. You can take it anywhere, and it's recognized across the country. It's standards-based, recognized by industry, and nationally portable. And one of the little tidbits of information that I've been told, and it seems to bear out, is that as folks are transitioning out, you'll see that about a third of the people who are leaving the military are headed for home, wherever home may be. That's just the path that they're going to take. Another third will stay in the vicinity of where they're exiting. So in this case, the Clarksville, Tennessee, Hopkinsville, Kentucky area, because they've perhaps, have kids and now have a spouse in the community while they're deployed, or they've started their life there. Or another third is mobile and is really looking for the best job opportunity that they might find. So having that nationally portable, industry recognized credential is critically important so that our OpNext graduates move into these in-demand jobs. And we have seen that, and Eric will talk a little bit about the employers that have participated and have been engaged and are hiring the Operation Next graduates. So just to really quickly re-summarize the uniqueness of the program, we think, the fact that it's happening within that 6-month transition period. And that is an Army policy now, and the commanders who understand the opportunity are the ones that are allowing folks to have the time during their workday to do training programs like this and others. They get credit for what they know and what they can do. It's a hybrid, virtual, and hands-on program that can be self-paced, and then the value of that credential. We think those are really the key unique attributes for Operation Next. So as the model was set up, we began to work to identify what the right place would be for a pilot, talked to and had meetings with several military installations, but found at Fort Campbell a base commander who's since retired himself and now is in a civilian job, but who really got it and saw the potential for his soldiers to really move on to great careers. So the pilot is happening at Fort Campbell, and these are our partners. I mentioned Amitral, our learning partner, and NIMS, the credentialing partner. The Gene Haas Foundation has generously provided support for communications and marketing materials, the ads that I showed one at the beginning, and we'll show you another couple of ads. They supported the development of those and the website, et cetera. And then locally, critically important is the education and training partners, TCAT and Hopkinsville Community College, TCAT, Tennessee College of Applied Technology, and then our business and workforce partners. And that's where the rubber meets the road. Is, you know, it's great to have a great training program, but ultimately what we're looking for here is for soldiers to be able to come out and get great jobs with advancement potential and the ability to really support their family in the way that they'd like. So we are at Fort Campbell. Our pilot is the initial pilot is to have 101 soldiers go through and graduate and get employed. And it's 101, not 100, because of the presence of the 101st Airborne at Fort Campbell. So our number is 101 in their honor. So that's the model. And I'm going to now introduce Eric Horton. Eric is our program manager on the ground. Eric works for Workforce Essentials for us, and he's all up next all the time. And Eric, as I mentioned, is a veteran himself, and he has a personal passion for the work that he's doing in making the connection for soldiers to jobs and careers. So Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, as everybody heard, I'm actually here down at Fort Campbell. I'm on the front lines of Operation Next, and as a retiree, I retired in September of 2016, and I've seen firsthand for the first year that I was post-retired the transition challenges that a lot of soldiers seen in the industry and able to, successfully transition out into the civilian workforce, and how it was just kind of sorely lacking. And so after a period of time, I just kind of wanted to get back closer to the flagpole, which is meaning closer back to dealing with the soldiers and taking care of them. I did over 26 years of service and kind of just felt more of a passion taking care of the guys, to the left and right, and as I grew up and stuff in the military, and just kind of wanted to continue that trend. And so this opportunity presented itself, and we've been kicking butt and taking names ever since then. So the biggest challenges that we've seen that soldiers, when they transition out, is the fact that they don't really know what's out there. And then the least on their mind is the reason why they usually typically join the military was to get the college education, because they understood that, blue collar work and manufacturing just quite had a stigma with it that it's not real in a lot of ways. And so I try to use a lot of efforts to expose soldiers to industry, to manufacturers, to show them that in most cases in the manufacturing industry, at least in this area, you could pretty much eat off the floors in a Ford manufacturing plant or Acubona or LG or whatever. And so I try to use that as a means to break down some of those stereotypes of what blue collar work is, which is what Operation Next is presenting, is kind of a very good manufacturing career post-military service. And so that kind of ultimately is why the program is good for soldiers at Fort Campbell. And so when guys leave, they want to do their time. They want to go home most of the time. So when they do their 4 or 5 years in the military, they usually end up leaving 23, 24 with, married with one child. And so they're looking for a career because the military just kind of wasn't the right fit, and or multiple deployments kind of shed some different stressors on families that they just wanted to go ahead and decide to ETS out. And so the Operation Next gives them a very viable training for that successful transition out, that gives them rather than just being a combat arms or infantryman or field artillery guy or tanker, gives them a skill, gives them good training. And then industry, as we all know, is just hemorrhaging for a workforce of people that can just show up to work on time, drug-free, all these soft skills that soldiers typically have. And so, but the closing that gap piece is the part of, what kind of skill set do they have after they leave, if that's all they've done is the combat arms kind of job set. And so it gets into a little bit of the reason why Fort Campbell is a little bit unique, in the fact that we have right around 5,000 soldiers leave a year, around 450 on average a month, and between 42 and 44% of the soldiers that leave are, believe it or not, in this area is diesel mechanics, aviation maintenance, electronic systems repair, and then a combination, 22% is the police, fire, HR, and finance. But there's 29% that do leave that are just purely based off combat arms. And so they have a lot of good aptitude leadership skills, but they just don't have the transferable skills that industry needs in this area. And so if you did the math on that, at 5,000 with 30% of them leaving that are looking for places, in this area, there's about 1,800 manufacturers between Kentucky and Tennessee in this the 6-county area at Fort Campbell. Fort Campbell is actually positioned where it's unique. It's half of it is in Kentucky and half of it's in Tennessee. And so there's a heavier presence of manufacturing in this area because of the I-24, or what they call the I-24 corridor, or I-65, that goes north and south. So a lot of developers, a lot of manufacturers in this area. In Montgomery County alone, you have LG, you have Hankook, you have Akebono, Bridgestone, Shiloh Industries, and things like that. So the industry is here. They just needed to figure out how they get people into the workforce, especially with Fort Campbell having a steady pipeline of soldiers that are leaving. And so if you take a look at what we've done so far with the success that we've had within the first year, 2 specific guys kind of come to my mind that transitioned out and had a really good impact in it. And that is Tim Short, which is there with Lyft. He was the first graduate of the CNC machinist program out of Operation Next last year, and then decided to go back home to Detroit, which was where he was from, where his family is all located at, and then ended up getting employment there at Operation Next. And then the next individual was aircraft airframe maintainer here with 160th, Alex Gander, and he left as soon as he graduated from the Hopkinsville Community College, the Operation Next campus, and went directly to work as a maintenance supervisor at the Lowe's facility that just opened up here. Lowe's opened up one of the 3rd largest direct-to-consumer facilities for the store distribution center, not for the stores themselves, with a state-of-the-art robotics, maintaining or maintenance equipment that was needed. And so Alex Gander literally graduated the program and went straight to Lowe's pretty much within about 10 days after graduating as a maintenance supervisor, and Lowe's has had nothing but good things to say about Alex Gander. And so those guys right there are kind of the representation of what it means to transition out of the military. Tim Short and Alex both did multiple years, multiple deployments, and then they wanted to get out, but they had families. Alex Gander had a wife and 2 kids, and same with Tim Short. And so the fear of what are we going to do when we get out of the military was quickly subsided by them being able to get the training and then be able to have a successful transition into a job pretty much relatively pretty easy and pretty fast. So a couple of the employers that we do have, it's gone pretty well here in Kentucky and Tennessee because of the sheer volume of manufacturers in this area. We've had anywhere from Gulfstream. Plymouth Engineering is a great partner with our CNC machinist, in that every guy that goes through the CNC machining part, the class here, has an opportunity to do an internship at Plymouth. And so they'll go to class from 2 to 5:30 in the evening, but then they'll do an internship at Plymouth Engineering from 8 to 12, take a lunch break, and then they'll go back. So they're all still on active duty while they're doing this. So it kind of gets them a comfortability, but it also allows them to kind of get somewhat of industry experience with, you know, what it's really like to work in some of these manufacturing facilities. So it kind of helps make them ambassadors, if you will, that I usually try to bring them back to talk to current classes and just kind of continue to be a good access and a good link between, you know, when there's shift openings or when there's expansions going on. They're really good about reaching back and let me know pretty quick on, hey, we're needing, you know, X, Y, Z. Sean Stewart was another great asset. He was a 22-year Army retiree, another aircraft maintainer, but he just didn't have the transferable skills. And he ended up going straight off for retirement, straight out of the class, and straight into Akibono. And he calls pretty regularly, let me know when there's openings. And building those relationships with the employers has been key and kind of pivotal to the success for Operation Nexus, because the more the industry sees that they have a need and these soldiers can quickly fill it, then it's just kind of it's a win-win for everybody all the way around. And the big goal was to eliminate the problems of soldiers transitioning out without being unemployed and just all the stresses that go with leaving with no skills and then, you know, having a, you know, viable option for employment after they get out of the military. And this kind of closes that gap tremendously. And so if you go over to the dates that we have right now with graduates, so we have 14 currently enrolled, 7 are CNC and 7 in ITM. And we have 43 that have already graduated, 20 is with a CNC machinist and 23 with ITM. And the breakdown, you know, the big part about us trying to make this successful is the fact of getting employers on board. And so 21 accepted job offers, 3 have enrolled to continue their education. Sometimes the soldiers decide that they have their education benefits when they get out of the military, which are pretty, it provides a BAH and BA, when they do get out and decide to go to school full time, it provides a steady stream of income while they're going to college. And so some of the soldiers do take the opportunity to go back to school, and they still receive a paycheck for their allowance for housing. And so they just want to kind of maybe get their feet a little bit wet. Ty Din was a good representation of this. He decided he liked the industrial maintenance really good. He wanted to go ahead and go back to school for it out in California and continue it. So he stuck out of my mind the most, because at first he was really stressed about trying to get employment, and but now it's he wants to do more than what he just learned. And 2 are taking time off before job searching, so that's not uncommon. Some people that take the program are retired. They don't have the skills that they need that are recognized with credentials outside of the military, and then they end up getting out and decide that, you know, they just want to take some time off. And then so that's okay. And we fight that a lot, actually. Some want to go to work, some don't want to go to work. And then 17 recently completed and are considering job offers. The big challenge a lot of times with some of the soldiers that are getting out is having industry look at this in a way that they're still a little hesitant because they don't have the industry experience. And so it's just trying to build those relationships and keep this going forward. And then the other part is, so even though it says 17 are recently completed and are considering job offers, they're still on active duty. And what we try to do is we try to get soldiers within 180 days of leaving the military. So if they come in the program in exactly 180 days, which is where I try to get them, so that they can still have about 2 months worth of terminal leave when they get ready to get out. So if they start at 180 days and they finish within about 4 months of leaving the military, they still got quite a good amount of time before they get ready to transition out. And so you're kind of playing a really good game of dates and access points of when they can actually start going to work, because they still actually have to go back to the military and out process. And so those are the results to date. It is really, I can't stress enough how good of a program that this is for soldiers. Being that, you know, as a retiree myself, probably about 80% of the soldiers that leave the military are very underprepared. And this just is one great asset with it. And it, like Miss Eileen has said before, it is no secret that there's probably well over, between any given day, 80 to 100,000 jobs open and available nationwide in industrial maintenance. So that is a critical workforce development gap that has to be looked at in a lot of different ways, and taking care of the amount of soldiers that leave, not just at one installation, but multiple installations, could be a great option for considered expansion with it. So thank you guys very much for giving me the opportunity to participate in this.
Great, thank you, Eric. I think we're going to turn it back to Joe Steele.
Thank you very much. Again, if you do have a question, please use the chat function on the right-hand side of your screen to submit a question, and we can certainly relay them there. Eric, you might have touched on some of this, or Eileen, you might have touched on some of these, but some of the career options that folks have taken, have they been easily transferable into the industry, or and what types of just a quick sampling of what kind of jobs those have been?
Well, it's been easily transferable. I think it's too easy to transfer, and the reason why I say that is in this area you have anywhere from an extreme technologically advanced floor of Lowe's, and then you have a lower grade, it's 15, 20 years old on upgrading at, say, Bridgestone, for example. So what I've gathered from all the industry leaders so far is the skills are needed. However, if they just have the aptitude, that's kind of the foundation part of it. And so they don't have to be the subject matter experts. Industry is generally just saying, have they given the basics like Ohm's law and things like that this kind of the program offers, and it meets all the intent with anywhere with manufacturing, with dealing with the basic repairs of robotics or pneumatics or pumps. So it fills all the intents, and that's coming directly from the amount of employers that I kind of work with and talk with weekly. So.
Joe, this is Emily. Thanks, Eric. If I could jump in on 2 points there. One, the normal jobs, I think, for our graduates are CNC operators and industrial maintenance technicians. And virtually every manufacturer, large, medium, and small, have those positions and are hungry for individuals, as Eric said, who have essentially the entry-level CNC operations and ITM maintenance credentials. They are, in every instance, going to grow both their skills and their opportunities on the job. But this other point I wanted to make that I think is very telling about the market for these young men and women who are leaving Fort Campbell with these credentials is at Lyft, headquartered in Detroit. Our company members, and for those of you who know the Manufacturing Innovation Institutes, we have multiple large, medium, and small industry members that have belonged to our institutes and have been driving both technology and workforce development programs forward. And our members were quite eager to have the graduates from Fort Campbell as potential talent pipeline into their jobs in Michigan and farthest reach into Ohio and Indiana. Well, guess what happened with the employer engagement around the gates of Fort Campbell? It's a rare graduate that gets beyond the regional economy and the job opportunities that are available immediately at that base. We were fortunate to bring the first graduate home to Detroit and to employ him at Lyft, because it allows us to have a representative of our Hall of Heroes, the next advanced manufacturing workforce, very visible and credible at Lyft headquarters. But the demand for these civilian credentialed workers and their employment opportunities against the very definitive skills gap that we all know in manufacturing is the reason why we believe every base in all four of the services across the country need to look very carefully and seriously at this kind of transition program, rather than relying on the old traditional TAP programs that haven't been as effective in making the connection as quickly for individuals separating from the military. So we're working very hard to make sure the services, the leadership of the transition services programs across the force services, and that other bases around the country understand it now, that the learning platform, the curriculum, the credentialing partners, and a model where the workforce investment system is actually providing the tuition in support of the soldiers attaining their credentials. It's a package that is easily replicable or transferable to other bases. And we're hopeful that our audience today can also be strong proponents of the ease with which we could make tremendous progress in ensuring every one of our separating military men and women have the best possible opportunity to join our advanced manufacturing workforce.
And if I could add one little piece on that, is the biggest thing that I could tell people about Fort Campbell is 4 times a year we hold a hiring event at Fort Campbell. And so it's a 2-day event. On one day it's open for international or nationwide employers to come down, and I highly encourage. We get industry all the time from Indianapolis. We get them from all over the place. When I do get contacts for people inquiring from Lyft, first thing I tell them is, these events are there just for you to come here to be able to hire, a veteran and participate. So, please reach out. We're doing one December 6th, which I think is locked already right now. But every 3 months, we're doing a hiring event where we get probably close to 1,000 soldiers that walk through there in a day that are looking to go somewhere. And so as long as you present them a good choice that, hey, we would like you to come to Detroit because of this. This is what we offer in our communities. To use that whole package as a selling point of your community. What are they offering? And then, it just gives soldiers options to look at things that they don't know. And if they don't know about it and they don't see it, then it's absence out of mind. And so do a good job of trying to reach back on that. And definitely I'll help you set all that up. Because that's one of the disadvantages of a lot of employers have is they don't really know what they don't know. And so help me, be a conduit between that. So the more that, there's a lot of soldiers that just don't know about what's taking place in Detroit. And so, whatever I can do to help, because this program is really important. And I wished it would be a little bit more important across the board with other bases. But it's just, I'm a little bit more proactive with it than a lot. So.
Thank you, Eric. Are those events, you mentioned the 4 times a year, are those events scheduled and posted somewhere, or is it just a matter of reaching out to you via your email address that's on the screen?
Well, we post it on the website, and then if they want to reach out to me directly, I'd be more than happy to walk them through the whole process and get them set up for it. I'll be even your door greeter and pick you up from the airport if you wanted to participate with it, because it's a pretty big event. Ford came down, Corvettes came down a few times, but Ford, the head of their HR department, actually is the G1 here at Fort Campbell. So it's that little bit of a connection and relationship building. So yeah, just you reach back to me by email and I'll take care of everything for you.
Excellent, thank you. And I guess this is a 2-part question. Are there any costs to participating in those hiring programs? Number 1. And number 2, are there any costs to hiring someone through the Operation Next program for an employee?
So no, there's no cost to hiring a soldier through the program. My job is to make sure that same thing that I did while I was in the military, which is never leave a soldier falling behind. So there's no cost to hire a veteran. It's just a matter of him getting the resume and asking for a resume and me sending it directly to you, and you can reach out. The employers and partners can reach out directly to the individual. But I normally go on day 1, as soon as I get ready to graduate, within 30 days of them leaving, I'm usually on everywhere trying to get their resume out to people. So no cost to hire a soldier. It's taking care of them. It's doing the right thing. And then the other part is the cost to participate in the hiring events. There is a minimal cost. And if I remember correctly, well, I don't want to say a quote on it, but I can get more information. I think it went down a little bit this year on December. But I'll find out more information about that. But it's minimal. I don't even think it's maybe $150 or $200 for the table.
Okay, thank you. That's good information to have. So I encourage everyone to reach out to Eric and Eileen and Emily with other questions. And I did mention that you can follow LIFT on Twitter and other social channels at News from LIFT. You can do the same with Operation Next on Twitter at OpNextJobs. So that's at OpNextJobs. So you can follow us, follow the program there, and see how things are progressing, and the various graduates and how they're succeeding once they separate from the military. Eric, can you talk a little bit about the how much time is spent online and how much time is spent hands-on as part of this part of the training, and what kind of balance that might be for the soldiers as they're going through this program?
Well, the two of them are a little bit slightly different. So the CNC machinist, they spend around 3 hours a day, 4 days a week for 10 weeks. They're right around, actually they finish all of their online portion within about 2 weeks. And then the rest of it is purely based off hands-on at TCAT. Now they've been doing the CNC machinist for a long time, so they've got a lot more experience on that curriculum as well as the process on getting soldiers trained. So it's a little bit easier. The industrial maintenance is half and half, so it's around 12 to 13 weeks of 4 hours a day, 4 days a week with the hands-on, and it's right around 2.5 to 3.5 hours a day for the online curriculum. And that's with the exception that if they take their personal assessment that gives them credit for the knowledge that they already possess, it can greatly enhance and lower the amount of hours they need for the online portion of the theory portion.
Yeah, I would just jump in on that, Joe, and say that's sort of, you can't nail it down quite that definitively because the program has that self-paced and that assessment. So it's not the same for every soldier, right? Everybody's different.
Exactly.
Some are going to need more on the theory, some are going to need more on the hands-on, and so it's kind of a hard question to answer.
Exactly.
But you answered it very well, so thank you very much. I will just echo this as Joe speaking from the LIFT headquarters. Now, we mentioned Tim Short, who was the first graduate and hired by LIFT. I will mention that he's been a great advocate of the program and speaking with our stakeholders from the Department of Defense as well as some of our industry partners. I know Emily has had the chance to introduce him to some people. Emily, if you wanted to expound on that just a tad before we wrap up.
Well, sure. This is one of those heartstring stories that you love to share. We are in the finishing construction of the LIFT Learning Lab, as I indicated, and among our partners for the CNC Operations Training Center in Detroit will be the team from Haas Automation and the Haas Foundation. And they were visiting with us and touring the high bay quite recently, and I noticed that Tim was working hard on a CNC machine in the back of the high bay and asked if they would like to meet one of the young men whom their funding from their foundation had helped to support separating from Fort Campbell. And they said indeed they would, and we walked to the back, and you never quite know how that extemporaneous meeting is going to happen. But when I signaled for Tim to come over and he removed his safety glasses and came over, and I explained who was standing in front of him, the gentleman who had driven substantial financial support to the program of study he had pursued, he stuck his hand out, shook their hands, and said, "You have changed my life." So that's what we're hoping to do, change the lives of the young men and women who have served our country so well.
Thank you, Emily. I know I put you on the spot with that, but I know it's a story that that holds a special place for you. So I think those are all of the questions. Again, I would like to encourage everyone to reach out to Eric, Eileen, and Emily with questions. Again, if you do visit the Detroit area or are in the Detroit area, please come by and visit LIFT. We can show you our wall of heroes as well as the high bay facility and everything else we have going on here with the Learning Lab under construction. We'd be happy to show you around. So with that, unless there are any parting comments, I want to thank everyone for for joining us today. Again, this webinar will be posted on our website at lift.technology in the coming days. So please revisit it, share it with your friends and family who are unable to come today, and join us every month on the second Tuesday of the month at 1 p.m. Eastern Time as we continue bringing Mind to market. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will talk to you next month.